Welcome everybody to the 68th Eden Fractal meeting. Hope everybody's doing great. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I'm here with Eric, Gudasol, and Rosmari, and Tadas, Space Ranger Joe, and Perry, and Lisa was also here. She just had to go. We've been having some really interesting discussions about lots of exciting stuff. Maybe some people will repeat it when we get going. First, I'm going to show a presentation just to give a little recap of what we've been doing over the past few weeks here at Eden Fractal. And in case people aren't familiar with Eden Fractal, you can learn more, as well as the topics on the agenda for today and the Cagendas game. If anyone wants to say hello or share some thoughts, then feel free to do so now. If not, then I'll just go ahead with the presentation. Hope everybody's doing good. Woohoo! All right, cool. So, well, of course, everybody can learn more about Eden Fractal at edenfractal.com. This is a website that I put together and shared with the community for, we talked about it back in like week 55 or something like that, and there's lots of details. One of the great pages here is edenfractal.com/videos, where we've been publishing the videos along with beautiful art and great titles and short descriptions and show notes too. So this is something that I've been working on a lot along with Rosmari. She's been doing a lot of great work with the show notes, and one of the things we realized is that they're a little bit difficult to find, so we're working on sharing it more because this has a lot of great recaps for people who don't have the time to watch the full video. But yeah, basically you can check these out, and there's lots of show notes where you can share with friends. We encourage people to share with friends and invite people to the great stuff we're doing here at Eden Fractal. You could see some of the recent meetings where we figured out to update the MSIG for the community account, and also over the past couple weeks where we've been talking about optimism and all the possibilities there, as well as all the respect games and cool stuff that people have been doing. So these are all in a work in progress, but I wanted to share them with you for now. And you can check out all the new videos on edencreators.com, or rather youtube.com/edencreators, as always, as well. And then another thing I want to mention too, because Perry just joined, he said he had difficulty finding the link as well because his Telegram wasn't working. So of course we have t.me/edenfractal, but we also have lou.ma/edenfractal as well, where you can get email reminders for the events too. So if you hit register, then you'll get email reminders, and we have these every Wednesday at 15:30 UTC. We've been doing it for 68 weeks straight, so encourage you to register so you can get reminded every week. But anyway, we're going to go into we'll go into breakout rooms. I think we have 6 or 7 people here, so maybe we'll just do one. I suppose we'll do 2 different breakout rooms and see who else joins. So first we'll play the respect game with Eden plus Fractal that you can learn more about here. Everybody knows already, so I won't go over it. And then after, we'll do Cagendas, social coordination game where we can select topics and so forth. Everybody's welcome to post topics on Consortium to bring up discussions with the community. And I think that this week, there's only been one topic proposed. I just proposed a quick topic about the topics game, about playing this new kind of Cagendas topics game with a Notion database that we played a few times previously. It's a cool way to organize topics, and I have some topics, a lot of them from last week, that I figure we can continue, but also some new topics like Eden Fractal MSIG updates. Vlad put together a proposal for that for us, and there's also several other things here too, so we can get into. That's the topic with the most votes right now. If anybody else wants to post something else, then feel free, but as of right now, that's what we'll discuss. But of course, happy to hear your thoughts. It looks like somebody had to go. We lost somebody, so I guess we lost Gudasol. So we only have 6 now, so I suppose we can just do one breakout room unless somebody else joins. But anyway, that's the end of my presentation, so I hope you all enjoyed, and happy to hear from you all. I suppose we'll just get started with the respect game, and we'll just do it here. What do y'all think? How y'all do?
Sounds good to me. Why not? We're in the room.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Perry, for helping guide us. And would anybody like to go first and share what they've been doing to help the community, or help the goals of the Eden Fractal community, I should say?
I'm happy to. My share for this week is similar to other weeks, other than the things that I can't mention. I'm continuing to monitor in public the secret meetings of Eden, and offer my first let me get myself off camera, because let me do that, and to offer my my opinions as to what's happening there. Some of them appreciate it, some of them not. But I continue to make my contributions there because I am present. Most of the time, I'm with one, two, or all three CDs and nobody else. Sometimes with a few others, but usually it's just CDs and me, and not always all three of them, which is interesting. There's a lot of discussions going on about why nobody is contributing, showing up, submitting proposals. There's a lot of concern about how they're going to, how the community is going to perceive their proposals and so on and so forth. So I'm understanding where they are and what they're doing. And at the same time, when I'm not in those meetings, I'm developing a solution that I think would be a huge contribution to not only Eden on EOS, but any decentralized group. And oh, I can't say it. And that's it. That's my share. That's it. So yeah, a lot of stuff I can't get points for, but I definitely want to express here and let you know that I'm making something that I find very interesting, and I feel like it'll be helpful to a lot. Yeah, that's what I can say. So in my left-hand corner, of course, is Dan, but he's probably busy doing something else. So right below Dan is Rosmari.
Okay, thanks, Perry. I am going to share my screen. So I've been working this week on refining and crafting the show notes and getting a better process of curating them using AI. For example, Claude, I discovered it more recently, and now I think it's available in the UK and US and all other geographic areas that are, I think now it's becoming more popular to use. So I wasn't based in the UK. Now I can use it. And anyway, so I've been working and exploring different ways to use AI in Claude, as mentioned, and now it's very helpful. I started working on 66 show notes and worked on the thumbnail, which I will show later on without the YouTube sign. And it's still a work in progress, but it's pretty much there. So I'm hopefully going to share 66 and 67th meeting, which are from previous 2 weeks on YouTube. And the show notes are pretty comprehensive. There's table of contents and different sections like highlights, topics, timestamps, and related posts, pretty much using the same old structure. But also, for example, what is new is I started providing respect game recap. So what is happening during the respect games, and as well linking to different timestamps and providing more details into contributions and general work. I invite everyone to have a look at them, the show notes, and I think they're very valuable in case someone doesn't have time to look through the whole video. And same thing for 67 with the thumbnail, and then the show notes. These show notes are pretty long. There were many good highlights that I decided to give a special shout out to, like the Upland Fractal discussion, the Dynamics of Hedgemony game, the MSIG updates, Fractalgram updates, and so forth, as well as Optimism, RetroPGF grants, and the discussion of Optimism Fractal grant. So you can go into each section and see specific timestamps for moments when we discussed parts of the conversation. And then I also worked on this Optimism article alongside Dan. He curated most of the the links and resources and descriptions of aspects of the optimism article, and I helped him yesterday put them together, as well as adding some more. And this also helped me get more of an introduction to optimism. I did have an introduction of course already, but it was more of a explorational phase yesterday that I went through for a couple of hours. And Dan would share more, I guess, on this article and would share with all of you. Actually, you can access it at edencreators.com/optimism. Again, we have a table of contents with different sections like Intro to Optimism, Retroactive Public Goods Funding, RetroPGF, the different concepts of impact equals profit, and so forth, as well as Eden Fractal's coverage in the last 2 episodes. I hope you like it, and let me know if you have any questions or any feedback on how this could be improved. It's still work in progress. It's not a complete article, so we'll still keep adding to it. And I know I've been talking for a long time, but yes, as mentioned, 60th and 67th episodes will be coming out very soon. 65th one is now published. And also make sure to check out the timestamps because they also have very good information and summary of the discussions that we've had. This is again for the 2 videos, and then this is a close-up to the thumbnails, which I really like and I'm really proud of. And it also includes the Ether's Phoenix and the sunny sun here, which is rising up in the next one. I'm still working on finalizing the titles and everything, but this is my progress so far. Thank you. And I'm passing it on to Eric.
Okay, well, thank you. My thoughts are, what can we do to promote Eden Fractal during the Interplanetary Unconference? So we'll be doing some more planning, but I've been having lots of discussions with lots of people and Lisa on what we can do, how we can do it. So promoting the Interplanetary Unconference and figuring out how to use that as a vehicle to promote Eden is on my thoughts. The other thoughts is, how can we add the Eden structure into the new game, Dynamics of Hedgemony. So I've been playing that and trying to do a research and investigating how to add a governance layer. For those that haven't played it, you actually have to have groups working together among themselves and then working with other groups to eventually create new markets without killing each other. So that's taking up a lot of my time. For those moving in the real world, how do I take this and add this fractal framework over a real work? I got my, some of you have it, my dissertation prospectus, 47 pages and about 100 references. So some of you already have that joy of receiving those that ask for it. So now I'm working on chapter 1, which is, the prospectus gives me permission, approval gives me permission to go ahead and do the dissertation, which is 5 chapters. So I'm like 80% into chapter 1, which means I can take this stuff and roll it out into the real world. So the other thing, I'm interested in how we can move this for proposals within the Center for Governance. So I put a proposals office in the Center for Governance. So how do we add fractal? That's another thing. How do we add fractal into gaming? So I'm just really interested on the easy tool thing that I can use to get it. Oh, I also met with the new executive director of the nonprofit that I'm working with. And she's a professor, very academically oriented, in addition to practically and business oriented. So we got along really good, and she's accepted that in principle, that we can go in and add a fractal test to the organization. So at least verbally, I have an improvement at the base level. So we have to have further discussions after they finish their world famous art exhibit, which is the next 2 weeks. Pretty neat. They've actually infused some of the glass with gas. So when you shine a light on it, it glows, and when you touch it, it changes color. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. Tadas, tell me your secrets.
Why don't I show you my secrets?
Even better.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I want to show you my progress on Firmament. So this is, you see 2 browser windows. Imagine these are 2 different users, 2 different views of 2 different users. And like those who know what Firmament is about know that each DAO in Firmament would own their own blockchain. So to create a new DAO, you would create basically a new chain. So this is what this form is for. So, oh, I added two same addresses. Yes. Yeah,
Of course,
so
that during a demo, of course.
yeah, always. Yeah, so yeah, so I just submit a transaction on the local blockchain that is running locally on my PC, and it created a new firm chain, new DAO, and now if I take here, you see address of this DAO. I can copy it and enter into a window of the other user. That's another lack of preparation.
We can cut it, no problem.
Yeah, so what was wrong here is that in MetaMask, I had another network chosen. So now I chose the same network that was in the on which I created this new DAO, and that's why it found it now. And yeah, so the main thing that you can do here is create a new record, which is like creating a new block, and in it you can basically set messages that the block sends. In this demo, there is only one message supported, and that's signaling an IPFS directory, which can be useful for a DAO if it reaches consensus on, for example, on its home page. What is its home page? It can signal an IPFS address of its home page, or if it wants to signal some other data in the form of IPFS link. Yeah, now you see a new block is created. If I click here, it shows what this block contains, and I can see it has 0 out of 2 confirmations. So both of these users have to confirm this block in order for it to get finalized. So now I'm confirming with one user, and yeah, first I need to refresh here. And now I will confirm with another user. It's taking a bit of time, but it should be confirmed soon. Yeah, so the time it's currently taking it's to submit a transaction to Ethereum network, and it takes variable amount of time currently. These kind of things never happen at the just alone.
Tadas, maybe you can give us context, a little more context as to what exactly is happening. It's not entirely clear to me what's going on. I'm sure at some point you'll work all that stuff out, but it's not clear to me exactly what you're demoing. We're looking at two browsers, two DAOs. They're two separate DAOs.
It's the same DAO. Two views of the same DAO.
Okay.
Two user windows, basically. Two users.
So you're demonstrating a transaction between two users on the same DAO on the same Ethereum network. Is that right?
Not a transaction, just an advancement of a DAO. So this kind of DAO advances, like changes state only when both users confirm the change that we want to make to a DAO.
Okay, so this is equivalent to us reaching consensus in a room. This is something related to that.
Yes, and this would be the final action after we reach consensus on a decision, for example. Then we would use this kind of tool to signal consensus on chain or on IPFS, for example.
Okay, and the fact that it's on Firmament, you introduce this as Firmament. Does that mean that it's employing IBC, or can it happen on EOS? It's not clear to me what the Firmament tie-in is.
Yes, so core of Firmament is a smart contract, which is a validator client for a blockchain, and it can run, the smart contract can run on any EVM network, and it can, the goal is to also make it run the goal is also for it to have its own network based on IPFS. So yeah.
Okay, so that means for us in the EOS community, that means that this can be placed on the EOS EVM, and
yes.
And people and communities on the ETH network can participate in it. They can participate, or their DAOs can talk to each other.
It means that we can create, for example, our DAO on EOS EVM, and then if we decide that EOS does not suit us anymore, we can move to any other EVM based network.
As a whole group.
Yes, or we can submit our deploy our DAO to both networks at the same time, even.
And they're automatically synchronized, or they're separate entities?
Anyone can synchronize them. So a DAO submits blocks, signed blocks to one blockchain, to one network, and these same messages, when submitted to another blockchain, advance the DAO in exactly the same way as in the other network. So basically, yeah.
So I think I'm getting it. I think I'm getting it. You're creating a supra DAO that spans all these chains. That one DAO that can exist, and people from all these different chains with their own separate wallets can participate in the same DAO. Is that where you're going?
Yes, it could be done like that. Yeah. I also considered calling it interchain DAO or internetwork DAO.
Okay.
In the sense, it's like, you know, international organization, so it would be kind of the same thing, a DAO which works across blockchain network. It's a shame that it's not working right now. I was planning to show how it synchronizes, because I have two local networks running, and I would have shown how, yeah, so I created this chain on one network. Here you see its chain ID, and I can switch the network here with MetaMask, and here you see the same blocks, but they are in gray, and that means that they are not synced. And I can click the sync button, and it will synchronize the same DAO on that other network.
Are you aware of anybody else making this inter DAO? Are there other projects attempting this?
No, that's why I'm making this.
Wow. Wow. I give you my genuine good luck, my friend. That sounds awesome. Wow. A
Thanks.
DAO, a DAO across all the protocols. Well, don't tell the United Nations. Wow.
Yeah, it's a new idea, and that's why it's taking me so long, I guess, because I come across a lot of unexpected issues that I did not expect, you know, because
it's amazing.
nobody's making this yet.
No one is making this. Yeah, it's incredible that this kind of thing. Like, why don't you have tons of funding? This is an incredible. If you feel this is within the realm of possibilities of actually accomplishing, it seems like a very worthwhile objective. Wow.
Yeah, well, this is another tough topic about funding, but yeah.
Well, I think the demo is a driver of funding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point, and that's part of what I would say. Part of the reason why I've been delaying, like looking for more attention to this. I always want to have a demo first, but I'm not able to make the demo unless I could make some kind of a mock, which where only the front end would work. But
no, I like the style of demoing after you've accomplished a milestone. I like that myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to make a technical demo, not just a demo of a front end. So
not just a graphics
yes.
demo. Yeah. Wow, that's impressive. Impressive.
Yep, it's very impressive. I'll also add too, Tadas did give a detailed presentation about Firmament back in like week 41 or 42, and I curated that and wrote some stuff about Firmament, and also an interview that Tadas done with Patrick. Lots of information at edencreators.com/Firmament. I'll share that in the Zoom link or in the Zoom chat right now, so you can check it there. And then Gudasol asked several questions in the chat. I don't know if you saw those, Tadas, if you want to answer those now. Normally we try to like be pretty punctual with just doing everything within the hour, but I mean, this is really interesting too. So depending on how you guys want to do it, if you want to answer this question down to Tadas, I thought that was awesome and really appreciate your work. So yeah, Gudasol asked how it settles. He said it seems like it would require a list of all participants to settle anything. If you want to share these in voice, of course, Gudasol, feel free to share. I know you said you had internet issues in the chat. Oh, and there goes Gudasol. He also asked, how do you update that list? And he asked, where in the system is permission to confirm a block linked to an identifier, and what is the identifier, and is it another chain signing? So being that Gudasol just dropped off, maybe it's best if we, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there to Tadas, but if there is anything else you want to add, or if you do want to answer any of those right now, then feel free to go ahead, or perhaps we could also save it for after everybody gives their contribution reports and shares what they did, and maybe Gudasol will be back by that time so he can hear your responses. What do you think?
Yeah, let's listen. Let's have everyone share their contributions and reach consensus and then talk.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Das, and thank you so much, Perry, for all the great thoughts and comments and questions. And I agree. It's a huge innovation that should receive funding. I mean, to help with that. Tadas, would you like to pick somebody to go next?
Yeah, Joe, can you go? Joe, do you hear us?
Thanks, Tadas.
Okay.
Tadas, nice tournament. That was great. I like the demo. I know we talked about it a long time ago. It's good to see some progression. It's kind of funny. I have these flashbacks of where I was when I heard these things. I had a Firmament conversation in San Gabriel by the Mission. I can picture myself in the car when I was first learning about it. Pretty interesting. Good to see the changes and the updates. I noticed it's MetaMask right now. I know it's EVM. So probably it seems like be MetaMask a lot because it's that Ethereum virtual machine thing. But yeah, it's good to see that. I like the cross-chain thing. That seems to be one of the easiest and most available wallets for most people. And I think with any of this stuff, ease of use for the users. Most of this stuff's really pretty confusing for most people, and getting into it can be a difficulty. So choosing the I guess most popular, most onboarded option, I think is good. As far as my contributions, I've been to a few meetings this week, hosted two actually. One on Thursday for the Upland Alien Worlds people, and one on Monday for also Alien Worlds. That was rather small. Vlad was there. Eric was there. Lisa and somebody else was there. It was only 4 of us. And it was interesting. It was kind of short and sweet. We had a few people actually come technically after the meeting was over and join. It was kind of interesting that way. I always learned something new. I attended the Aquadac yesterday. Talked about how successful that is in my mind. It's a small group, but we are all making personal strides, and everyone seems to be improving and just getting better. I just want to thank Rosmari. I had reached out to her when I had volunteered to do it because Dan couldn't for the Monday meeting. So I had reached out to her because she did the Fractalgram thing. Super nice, sent me a video with the exact time stamp and everything, and just made it super easy on me to follow. Unfortunately, everyone was kind of like, well, it hasn't worked the past couple of weeks, so Vlad's supposed to be coming out with a new thing next week. So like, let's just skip it. But I'm still super appreciative of having that because I was confident that I could do it when I came in if I needed to. But like I said, most people were like, hey, let's just wait on it. So that was fine. But yeah, I just want to say thanks for that. And yeah, I can't think of anything else I'm doing in particular that's kind of Eden or EOS focused or based. So I think that's probably it.
Space Wrangler Joe is coordinating the development of the Interplanetary Unconference Event space. So that's significant. So we have a place to have these Eden meetings during the Interplanetary Unconference.
That's true, and I've been enjoying that, and I'm happy to add some creativity towards this stuff, and it's something I enjoy. So I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, that's been fun. And I'm still waiting to hear about the 2D images. I heard that Beanie may have some extra time on his hands here. And so I kind of want to see what happens with that. But I know we're supposed to have
let me know so I don't have a lot of funding, but let me know so I can put it in. And if we need more funding, let me know so I can try and ask for it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'll probably reach out to you today, to probably tomorrow. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And I think I'm the last one, right? Well, because Gudasol's not in. I was going to say I'd nominate Gudasol to go next, but I think his internet had attacked him.
Yes, but I haven't gotten yet either, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
All good. No problem at all. Thank you, Joe, for all the great work. So I suppose that I can get started now. First off, just thanks everybody so much. Amazing to see everybody's work and really appreciate it a huge amount. And yeah, I'll share a little presentation to show what I've been working on over the past week to help the community and help all communities with the great innovations in games and shows and tools from Eden Fractal. So the main thing that I've been working on this week has been the optimism stuff, Optimism Fractal, several different things. Also, I've been a bit sick the past few days, so my apologies, I could turn my camera off there. But yeah, I've been working really hard on this. This is kind of like a draft logo for the Optimism Fractal, which I really like the idea of. It's like kind of a sunflower. There's a lot of cool synergies there. And I'll share more about this page, which is one of the main things which I worked on quite a lot over the past week and just sent out last night. For anybody who's not familiar, I have been working with Tadas and Rosmari and Vlad on a proposal for the Optimism Grants Council. I provide an overview about Optimism, which is a layer 2 network on Ethereum, which is very aligned with creating public goods to help communities cooperate and to help the world better align incentives for the benefit of humanity. And they have a grants council where you can make proposals. And we just heard about this a couple weeks ago, like a few days before the application closed, and we made a quick application. And we heard back from the reviewers this week. So there's a little overview of the things we said we're going to build here, like delivering the first tool set of tools for fractal social games and communities on the EVM and on Optimism network, as well as hosting the first season of events. I shared this in previous weeks, so I won't go over in too much detail. You can check out the videos for the full overview, but that's just to set the stage for what I've done this week, basically. And the main thing I did this week was to follow up on the fractal proposal and the milestones. So I created a project, a Notion for this, where I was collaborating with Tadas and Rosmari and Vlad. Had a bunch of different things, kind of an overview here that I shared with them. I was coordinating with them closely to keep them up to date and to hear feedback and to just kind of like play a role between the Grants Council and our team who's been applying for this. And I organized this. I've been working on getting more organized in Notion project. So there's a bunch of different tasks in here for, like, first I wanted to review their Grants Council procedures to learn how it works after they gave feedback. So perhaps it might be more helpful if I share the feedback first that they provided. So here's a screenshot of a message I shared with Tadas and Vlad. I was saying, basically, we heard back from them and we made it to the final review. which is great, but we just barely made it. We received a score 20 points, which is like the lowest score we could have made. So there's some details here, and they gave us like reviews where some of the things that they really liked that we did, but some of the things I think they didn't quite understand. I think it's pretty clear they didn't quite understand, but they liked it, but they had a lot of good proposals. And so we made the final review, but they're still not totally convinced about how it can help. So we're not yet sure if we'll receive funding yet, but working to do so. And so I worked a lot in this week on basically following up to clarify the lack of communication and their misunderstandings, and provide information to help them better understand the profound potential of Optimism Fractal to help optimism and to help the world as a whole. So I've been communicating with these grant reviewers. And so I made this project to review like their council procedures, and I read a bunch of the stuff that they did here. This is some of the stuff I just shared. I was also looking at their budget and figuring out like how much can they afford to share. So I spent a lot of time just like writing notes about if we should, if they're able to afford it, and all sorts of different things to figure out the best way to proceed. I worked on a message to one of the council reviewers. I worked on figuring out how to best format a response. There's different tasks and projects for each one of these different things. And this is just kind of an overview. I'll share more of like the outcome of here shortly, but this is just to show how we got there. And this took several days just to organize this project and go through all of these different like tasks within it and learn how to best share it and best respond. Also, as a side note, one of the things I checked out, there's a lot of really interesting EVM tools that I think we could use when we have these tools like Vlad, like Tadas has been building with EVM compatible tools, and that we proposed. And so there's one that got like the highest review called Roles and Reputations from a community called ATX down in Texas. And so I looked into this, and I've just been looking into lots of tools that we can use to help us better coordinate that. I'll go into more detail, but I was looking into that to see how we could better improve our proposal, as well as tools that we can use and collaborations we can form once we have EVM compatible tools. And then I responded last night to one of the reviewers. I thanked them for reviewing and providing feedback. And then I explained how we discussed their feedback with our team, and we had some questions about their feedback, as well as a bunch of new information to help them better understand the proposal. And I created a Notion page with several details. I also mentioned that we're aiming to start Optimism Fractal in any case, because we're stoked about optimism. And I also offered them an opportunity to meet and different things like that, just kind of following up and trying to help them as much as possible succeed. And yeah, the main deliverable here, in addition to sharing the videos, and huge thanks to Rosmari for editing those and making the show notes and everything like that, as well as Vlad and Tadas for all the incredible work with tools, and everybody in the community for making this all possible in the first place, and all the great work. But the main thing that I've been working on this week is this Notion page, which has more details that help provide more information for the Optimism Grants Council, as well as, there's 3 reviewers here, but I figure if they had some confusion and questions about Optimism Fractal and the benefits of fractals, that this would be helpful for everybody in the optimism community or wider communities that might be lacking information. So our original proposal that I showed before had a lot of information that was really helpful. Like you could scroll down as I did last week, and there's like all these different questions and answers, but we've been doing so much over the past 2 years that it's difficult to summarize it for somebody who's totally new. So in addition to all this stuff, like they liked it, but there was more needed to really help them understand all the full benefits of what we're doing. So I went and I looked at all their feedback really closely. I talked about it with Rosmari and Tadas, and also messaged with Vlad about it and got some feedback. And then I put together this message, just once again, like a little intro here to provide a summary. And there's a table of contents section. I've also been working on this branding. I mentioned that before, but I also included some art, or like some draft art, to kind of spice it up a bit with some cool fractal imagery. And then there's these 5 sections about the likelihood of success, build or draw, and development of OP stack and grant size and discretionary factors. These were areas where we didn't get the best scores, but I felt like we should have gotten much better scores. So I went through and I created like some pretty detailed articles for each such section. Like he provides some comments here saying the community is clearly tight-knit, has persevered, but he's not sure how much the additional resources could help, and the uptake has been relatively small. So I had a little intro here, and then there's a table of contents. And in this table of contents on this page, for example, I'm probably gonna go a bit over 5 minutes, but this is really cool. So I suppose I'll just take the liberty to go an extra 2 minutes or so, if that's cool with everybody, just to explain this. The table of contents, and of course, feel free to jump in or raise your hands if anything's not clear, you have any questions or comments, as always. But yeah, the table of contents for this particular page with the likelihood of success, I put this one first. It has an overview of our history and future with optimism, as well as an overview of growing fractal communities, where I listed about 15 different communities or initiatives that are close there. Like, so for example, I mentioned, or I wrote a little bit the Art Fractal that Eric had been hosting, and the Upland Fractal that Cesar and Gajo mentioned, the Alien Worlds Fractal, Genesis Fractal, Aquadac, that just before we started recording, Gudasol shared a great overview of the Aquadac, and I also attended that, so I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, so there's basically a lot of information here. One is an overview of our history. So we didn't really have this yet, so I explained the history of how like we've been working on this for several years, and it's rooted in profound wisdom and honed by all these amazing builders, stuff that's we're all aware of, but people who like in Optimism or wherever else don't quite know yet. So it provides an introduction to the initial concept created by Dan Larimer and Dan Larimer's work and his track record, and also More Equal Animals, and how that led to Eden on EOS. And there's just lots of links that provide high-level summaries to Eden on EOS, as well as videos and places where people can learn a lot more. I'm going to share this in the chat so everybody can read it, and feel free to explore these. Worked hard on just making this intro as helpful as possible. Then I introduced Fractally and the Genesis Fractal and all the cool stuff that we did there, and then the start of Eden Fractal and a bunch of the cool stuff that we've been doing here. I shouldn't say all, because there's a huge amount of stuff that we've been doing, and this is just a high-level overview. And I also talked about like challenges in funding in the Antelope ecosystem, and also some of the regulatory climate challenges, and how like now everything is lined up basically with Optimism support to grow this a lot, with some like really poetic and exciting language and stuff like that, because we have a huge amount of benefits that have been created so far here with limited budget, and we can provide so many more benefits. I'll speed up because I'm going to take a while at this pace. So yeah, I also outlined a bunch of growing fractal communities because they weren't sure the uptake. So I explained how it's not just this community, but there's so many more communities. So I gave a highlight overview of Genesis Fractal, what Sync is now doing, the Alien Worlds Fractal, Aquadac, Roy Fractal, which is actually very successful. It looks like they have over 250 people participating in these meetings in Uzbekistan. If anybody remembers Cruz from the Genesis Fractal, Dynamics of Hegemony, Zeos Fractal, Eden on EOS, the Fractal de la Hispana, hosted by Jorge, EOS Respect, Eden Korea, Eden China, Art Fractal, Upland Fractal, Thiago Ree, Fractal Fiction, D-News, which isn't a fractal, of course, but I mentioned how Perry has expressed interest in kind of empowering the site with Eden Fractals, and Fractal Inquiries from Lisa, and then a bunch of related shows. So each of these, I'd written a lot of articles in the past, and then I wrote a little summary, and then linked a bunch of stuff for more helpful information to provide more details about that. And then I also explained like the qualitative benefits of just how it's not like about attracting at like millions of people at the stage, but it has a very deep effect on, and like very helpful for people so far. So provide some links like the speeches and so forth. I'll go much quicker because I've been kind of a while, and that's just one of the things. The other page is builder draw. So I explained how like one of the reviewers said that we could have gotten a total score of 8, but we got a score of 3 because people weren't sure how many builders it would draw. And one of them said that it's oriented towards building a specific kind of builders from the gaming industry. So I explained how this can draw many people from many industries, and I explained how our experience, like learning about optimism, if there's an Optimism Fractal, it'd be super helpful to like provide onboarding experience for developers there or wherever else. This could all be reused outside of Optimism, of course, obviously. Also about how we produce content, and there's a huge amount of engagement, and how we can collaborate with existing communities. Tadas shared some really helpful feedback about this and ideas. So thanks for that. So collaborating with Fractal enthusiasts and GameFi collaborations and Antelope collaborations, and then mainstream audience appeal. There's a lot more here, obviously, and then I included some of our previous answers, and then also talked about our how this Optimism Fractal can help lead to more smart contracts to develop the OP stack, which is Optimism's base level software. And I talked about the quality of smart contract. I wrote a lot about respect as a primitive that can be used with other apps, and provided some links here to help them understand Fractal social media. New Fractal communities that can be launched on Optimism. Fractal smart contracts, I mentioned a little bit about Firmament, which wasn't included in this proposal, but still aiming to help raise funding for Tadas, and making it clear that that's not in this proposal, but could still help with this proposal. Also mentioned some of the other research and development tools we have, like respect trees and signals and consortium, gardens and Cagendas, and the Fractal app that Vlad has been building with Matthias and Lenar. While it's built on Antelope, that could be ported over. Vlad's interested in doing that. Also, all the cool ideas from Fractally that we never got to, as well as short form games we talked about. And this morning I edited a section about how this can help creators in the creative renaissance, attract more builders. I'll be real quick here. The other one was about grant size. And one of the people said that he thought the grant size significantly outweighed the projected benefit. We asked for 30 KOP, and so I explained how there's immense potential for fractals, and we think could be like huge, attracting and helping millions of people, and we're flexible on the funding, and this could also help align Eden Fractal optimism and also like our limitations as volunteers, because we haven't received funding, and our positive trajectory overall, and more details about this. And then I wrote a little bit more about distraction factors too, because one of them gave us a -2 because he wasn't sure how to attract builders. So that's kind of the high-level overview. I'm happy to go into more detail about that, perhaps in the Cagendas game if you'd like. And then also, in addition to that, I put together the topics, a lot of topics from last week, but a couple updates. One thing is, I also put the transactions. We can do our on-chain transaction. And as I said, I participated in the powwow of the Aquadac, and I updated the new Aquadac article with, or this is mostly done by Rosmari, but I also edited this one video that Gudasol made that was really cool. And then I also spoke with Vlad. That's the other thing I did too. I coordinated with Vlad, and Vlad did this really, but I just asked Vlad to do it a couple of times to set up the MSIG to update the MSIG for Eden Fractal finally. So that's that finally, and that was probably like 10 minutes. So my apologies for going long, but hope you all enjoyed, and happy to go in more detail. And if you all prefer, I could just keep it to 5 minutes in the future. I figure this is kind of a more relaxed meeting where we've been going into more detail. So anyway, that's it. So if anybody has any questions or comments for anybody here now, then
yeah, I've got a question. Are you a beta tester for the Elon brain chip? Only an AI could absorb all of that information. That was amazing.
Thank you. I have not tried the Neuralink that you're talking about, although I did use AI to help write some of that. And then big thanks to, like I said, Rosmari and Tadas for helping with that, and everybody's work for being able to do that. And this has been a long effort that's come together over many times. Hopefully it wasn't too much at once, Barry. I really appreciate your feedback. And I get a breather too.
I'm interested in obviously not right now. We have to conclude our room, but it would be very interesting to me to go over in more detail the feedback from that group. Exactly what you kind of gave us an overview, but that's very interesting, because if we can somehow overcome that the obstacles, then that would mean a lot to the group. So I'm up for doing that in Cagendas. That's my vote for Cagendas.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'd be happy to, Barry. And yeah, I tried to just provide a high level review there. It's kind of like half a, there's stuff I have those things in the Cagendas topics as well that I propose. So happy to dive in deeper there. And I think that's a really great topic to discuss.
By the way, before I forget, I'm looking to fund a proposal counselor in the Center for Governance, somebody that would be willing to put a Calendly link in there and let people set up appointments and get advice on, help them put together proposals. Just before I forget.
Super cool. Well, thanks for that, Eric. And yeah, happy to hear more about that and collaborate there. And then one thing I've had to mention too is I read some of your dissertation too. I haven't had the chance to read all of it, but I read like the first 5 pages or so, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm looking forward to read the rest. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, of course. It was really cool, and I want to read it all, obviously. But yeah, the first 5 pages were awesome so far.
You're welcome to check out all 100 references independently too, if you want more information.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I saw some very interesting references. I saw a couple of references I was familiar with. You mentioned Eden a couple times, and More Equal Animals too, which is cool. And then some other ones that looked like they were very interesting to dive into. That hopefully I'll have the chance to learn all the wisdom you have in there in your brain, Eric. And I saw Tadas, who wants to run Fractalgram. I don't know, is anybody up for it? I haven't started yet. I can do it if y'all would like, or has anybody started it yet?
I don't know. I tried it on Monday and had no success.
Okay.
So give it a try. Someone else give it a try and make sure it wasn't me.
Okay. I see Rosemary wrote, Joe, do you want to? Question mark. And Rosemary said she could do it too. If anybody who wants to get more practice with it, that might be a good thing. Also, I know Tadas had actually mentioned it in his updates, but also another contribution he did this week, I believe. Yeah, it was for sure this week was updates to Fractalgram. So he had messaged me and several of us in the Fractalgram group saying there's some updates where, well, I had to log out. Some people had to update, and now it's working. So maybe that explains the mistake that you were having there, Eric. So I don't know if you saw that, but maybe you could try again. He posted that on the Eden Fractal Telegram group as well, if you didn't see that.
He said just log out of and log back in.
Yeah, that might be the issue. If it didn't work this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably just try logging out of Fractalgram and then logging in again.
I love it when it's have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah, well, I actually made an update, but
you can't believe how many times, because I used to manage a lot of people doing stuff, operate. So you can't believe the amount of times that I asked that question, how pissed off people would get, and then the amount of times that was actually it. The question's like, is it plugged in? God, I'm oh, never mind. I get really offended that I would just go down the checklist. Is it plugged in? Is it turned on? Did you install this? Did you?
Yeah, we got to remember to plug in Fractalgram.
In this case, I made an update which to work, it seems that person has to sign out, because browser storage then resets and it fixes the previous issues.
Yeah, and just quitting the browser didn't work. I tried that, but you had to actually go to the logout button within the browser or within the Fractalgram app to make it work for me.
So Eric, maybe you want to try this now. It actually would be useful for me.
Okay, how do I log out?
I just posted a link to a message in the live chat in Telegram.
Okay.
In Eden Fractal Telegram.
Yeah, and I see Rosemary also posted a link. I'm assuming that's a screenshot of the same message, but in the show notes, Rosemary also included some updates there. So thank you for that, Rosemary, and Dan and Tadas.
Yeah, so basically you go to the menu on the top left, settings, 3 dots there, and log out.
Do you think you'll be able to get it started up soon, Eric?
You go ahead without me.
Okay.
Fractalgram web app.
Is anybody else in the process of doing so? If not, then I can just take care of it. Or unless I know Tadas, it'd be helpful for Eric to try it. But also, I don't know how long it'll take, so we could always do that afterwards as well if we want to just have one of us set it up, and then we can troubleshoot with Eric after, perhaps. Or
all right, I'm trying to log back in again. I'll give it a try.
Okay, I'll also start opening on my side too, so that if it doesn't work out for you, Eric, then I'll be able to get started up.
Cool.
I think I'm already logged in somewhere.
All right, log back in. So you want me just to create a group?
Yes, and try to use it as you used previously. I figured out what the issue was with the demo, but
Cool. I'd be curious if you want to explain what the issue was to Tadas while Eric is getting it set up. I've also got it open to if Eric does have any issues, but yeah, if you want to share that. And then Tadas, I'd also be curious too, in addition to thinking what the issue was, if you could summarize like exactly what the main progress was today. It was really cool to see it, but like I'm not exactly sure what the outcome that you achieved this week was. Just you're able to get to work for the first time on the test nets, or?
That's a good question. Actually, the progress that I showed today was outcome of like last, I don't know, more than a few months. I just realized I have not showed it yet. Well, some of the outcome that I showed was the outcome of the last few months, but yeah, the main point of the demo was to show how you can create a DAO on one EVM network and sync it with other EVM networks.
Okay, great. And so yeah, regardless of the timeline, I mean, obviously, I appreciate that you've been working on it for a long time, and so like that's like the kind of completed feature now that you're now able to do that at least to some extent.
It's not fully complete because there are some issues to solve before it could work on public networks. Yeah, it's not complete yet. My idea was just to show progress. Nothing is yet done fully. It's not complete yet. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thank you for clarifying, and I'm loving the progress. And I see Gudasol keeps trying to join. And he keeps getting kicked off. We had Gudasol here for half a second. I see Eric also, it looks like Eric was successful in creating the Fractalgram group too. So far, there's 4 members, me, Rosmari, Tadas, and Eric, and we haven't yet had Perry and Joe join us yet. Perry and Joe, if you could join the Fractalgram group, we'd appreciate it. The link was just shared in the chat by Eric. And welcome back, Gudasol. Hope your internet is working now. Oh, and there goes Gudasol. Gudasol is popping in and out. Maybe he's just doing it for fun. I'm just joking. He said he had an issue. Perry, do you hear us? You're the only person who hasn't joined the group yet. Now we got Perry now. Everybody's
Yes,
in.
I do hear you. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. No problem. Thank you. Okay, so we're ready to go, and it looks like it's working. Eric asked everybody to please enter your EOS account as a reply to this message. And Gudasol said almost working. Wow. Well, yeah, you keep popping in and out, Gudasol, and we're laughing. I don't know if you can hear us well right now, but we'd be happy to hear from you if you want to share some thoughts. We just finished, the 6 of us just gave our contribution reports, and now we're just in Fractalgram. Everybody's entering their accounts. But if you want to say hello and show what you've been up to lately, it'd be great to hear from you whenever your internet is working well enough to be able to share some thoughts. Also, it looks like everybody entered their account names too in the Fractalgram. So, Eric, we're ready for you to take the next step.
All right, all votes are in.
Okay. Yep.
Looks like Dan has it.
Okay. Well,
I appreciate Dan because I think the most important thing is getting our tool done. Once we have tool, we can invite people in and show it and make it easy. So I appreciated that.
Cool. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it too, and I appreciate the task building tool as well as everything you and everybody else is doing. Thanks all for the respect, and I suppose we can move on to the level 5 now, as you already have done. All right. And it looks like here, well, of course, feel free, Eric, if you want to kind of host us through this as you're the admin here. But
I think we're good. I have 67% the DOS, so that should be good.
Yep, that looks correct. And it looks like Rosmari has 4 votes now, so she has consensus.
Yep. Okay.
And it looks like Eric has consensus. It is difficult because I think everybody's doing really good work. And there's a split right now. 3 votes for Perry and 3 votes for Joe. Would anybody like to share their thoughts or advocate either way or explain why they voted for who? Looks like somebody switched their vote. And we now have consensus for Joe. All right. Now we have to figure out a delegate. I'm going to open up the page to see who is a delegate right now.
I don't see a delegate poll. Did I get the wrong?
It should be there.
Unless I thought I picked the EOS one.
Yeah, it says please enter your user account.
You have to scroll a bit down, I think. To the...
Oh, yeah. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Got it.
Yeah, I think I did not update the delegate sheet last week. So if you're using that.
I think I was a delegate last week. So I think I'm good.
Yeah, and I think we only had 1 breakout room last week, so it was just Eric. So Eric is the king delegate for last week. Eric Almighty. It's kind of like that movie.
Who wants to be a delegate?
Well, previous delegates, me and Rosmari were elected 2 weeks ago. Tadas and Joe were elected 3 weeks ago. And actually that was 4 weeks ago now. So
Well, since I took the bottom, I'll nominate myself for the delegate.
all right, I support Perry as a delegate personally. And it looks like Perry has consensus as delegate. So thank you very much, Perry.
Welcome.
I'm very happy and proud to have you as delegate. And yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing, Perry, too. There's much respect with all your work in Eden On EOS and reporting on that and helping to guide and sharing your thoughts. That's super, super helpful. So just wanted to put that out there as well as helping to guide and help lead these conversations at Eden Fractal too. I can't express how much I appreciate that.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All right, and it looks like everybody can now enter the results. I'm going to do that, and then we can go into the Cagendas game.
Uh-oh.
Somebody's dog barking.
That would be me. That's Benny back there. Benny does not like our neighbor's trucks driving along the fence line.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about Benny yet.
Benny is not real happy about that thing.
I guess Benny wants to keep the property safe, and secure the perimeter, so to speak.
She did keep the property safe from peacocks this morning. So she had a good peacock cleansing run.
Big thanks to Benny. Well, glad to hear. Go Benny, much respect. Peacocks can get wild out there. Also, thanks again, everybody, so much. This has been really fun. Like I said, super inspiring, and really appreciate it. And Gudasol, I don't know if you can still hear us, or if your internet's working better, but I'd love to hear from you if you do want to talk before we go into the Cagendas, or I mean, and this is kind of like Cagendas too. I'm about to share the link because I didn't share it yet for the Cagendas topics database that I had with the topics, and I know Perry had suggested, or like kind of put his vote up for discussing more details about the Optimism Fractal proposal and what the feedback from the reviewers was. So happy to get into that. But it looks like now Gudasol's video's up. So yeah, Gudasol, sorry that the internet wasn't working, but very glad that you could make it back, and I really appreciate your steadfast perseverance to try to get over the waves of the internet and to get to us. And you're finally here, and it looks like it's working well. So we'd be happy to hear from you if you want to share any of your thoughts, or some of what you shared before we started recording as well. And great to see you.
Sure. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I was out in the field cutting some sunflowers, and like the internet is just super questionable. Yeah, I Rosemary just mentioned something about Tadas. I apologize that I'm not sort of highly aware of what he's doing, but I was curious about like the authorization as well as the settlement layer. So like in a blockchain, you have somebody who's authorized to say that I'm signing this block, and then you also have the signing mechanism. So I just kind of picked up little bits of that, and it sounded like he was settling to IPFS, and it also sounded like the authority structure was something that would be laid out at the beginning of the blockchain. So my questions were related to where is this authority? Are you creating the private keys? Are you using the private keys on the existing EVM that you're checking into? And then what's the mechanism to change that permission? Yeah, it seems highly technical, and I apologize, like these are kind of too late, too in-depth questions. It's probably not even good to get in there, but I'm just responding because Rosemary did say that. But yeah, anyway, so what I wanted to jump in and say hi about is Aquadac. You are all invited, as well as anyone who is watching. The link is lu.ma/aqua/Aquadac. You can find it from both of those links. We are a self-improvement group. Collective improvement and empowerment. So self-development and empowerment group. That's what we came up with a couple meetings ago. Yeah, so we're meeting again for next season, and our theme will either be collective growth, or it might be project, completion of a project. So we're currently voting on those two topics. We follow a format similar to Fractally. Again, shout out Dan for all his help spreading the message, as well as Rosemary. Also, Space Wrangler Joe is a frequent at the meetings, as well as here. So again, yeah, thanks for the little platform to share. That's the big thing I'm working on related to this. Also, there's a lot of exciting things for CXC, which I'm supposed to have out by now, but I've just been super busy. Also working on the farm. I'm getting involved in a lot of projects here. So I'm hoping to have some announcements related to CXC. And then Tetra, which is building on top of CXC. We are at tetra.earth. Anybody's welcome to sort of read up about what we're doing, but that is also still in the early planning phases as well, although we've published some pretty extensive documentation about like how the system works and things like that for anybody who wants to audit that or just look into how the system is going to work, because it is a pretty impressive system. We're launching local currencies for the entire globe, so we're starting with currencies for each nation starting on May 5th of next year. So that's our deadline for that project. Yeah, again, thanks, and I'll say peace out for now and let you guys continue.
All right, thank you so much, Gudasol. Really appreciate the update. And yeah, like I said before, it might be a little bit repetitive for people who were here before, but for anybody who's on the recording, anybody who forgot, maybe here, wasn't here in the beginning, I've really been enjoying the Aquadac meetings and gaining a huge amount from it. I know Joe also did that too. I think it was just the second powwow yesterday, which is like the 26th week, so it's been a half a year or so forth. I encourage everybody to check it out and learn more. And I also mentioned how we have an article at edencreators.com/Aquadac where you can learn more. Big thanks to Rosmari for putting together a lot of that article. I recommend people check it out. I'll share the links. I added Aquadac updates and Firmament updates as topics in the Eden Fractal topic database. So I'm going to share the link and people can find those links there. But yeah, the edencreators.com/Aquadac has a bunch of really cool links where you can learn more about Aquadac, and also has an excellent interview with Rosmari, who hosted a community stories episode with Gudasol. So yeah, huge thanks, Gudasol. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to the third season of Aquadac, and happy to support it however I can. Looking forward to join. Those happen every Tuesday at 16 UTC. And like Gudasol said, lu.ma/aqua is where you can find the link, as well as the email reminder to learn more about the Aquadac. And yeah, encourage everybody to support it and check it out. Gudasol's doing excellent work, both with Aquadac and all the cool stuff he's been doing with Tetra and CXC and stuff, empowering musicians and empowering people with fractal social consensus games. So really appreciate you sharing all that, Gudasol, as well as all your questions and interest in Firmament too. With that, if you want to add anything there more, Gudasol, then feel free, or Joe or Rosemarie or anybody else who's got experience with Aquadac or anything else in your mind. I'm also just going to work on sharing this Notion link. Got a thumbs up from Gudasol. Great. Yeah, I'm going to share the link to the Notion database with topics in the Telegram chat for live chat. Previously, when we did this topics game, by the way, when we first started it, I had a Slido poll, and the Slido poll let us all vote on topics we want to discuss. And I think that's pretty ideal, because that lets people to decide like what they want to, it just provides a more democratic or more community-oriented way for people to decide what topic we want to discuss. Because otherwise, kind of like whoever speaks up first, sometimes just kind of curious discussion, which is great too, kind of more frequent discussion. But one downside about Slido is that it takes some extra work to set up the Slido poll. Unfortunately, it's not all on an open source database like a Web3 can enable. So far, I've just shared I've just gotten together the Notion database, and I've kind of been actively adding to it as I heard about the topics for Firmament and Aquadac and some other things we've been talking about. So for right now, I'll just share the Notion topics database in the live chat, and then if y'all would like, I'm happy to set up the Notion. So it looks like I shared the Firmament update specifically rather than the whole topic. So I'll do that again. And I'm able to set the Slido poll in a couple minutes if that would be helpful. Or we could just play it by ear. That's kind of what we did last year with the smaller group. It also works pretty well when we just have just putting the topics up there in the database, and then we can see whatever people are most interested in talking about. I know, so Perry also already mentioned that he wanted to discuss the Optimism Fractal, which I wanted to discuss, and Gudasol had several questions about DOS. Thank you, Rosmari, for the reminder about that too, and Gudasol for sharing that. I don't know if we ever got to that, so if it's all good with you, then maybe I'll just like share the screen to show the topics, and then we can take it from there to discuss the order, or if we want to do a Slido poll or whatever we want to focus on first. Does that sound good with everybody? Or anybody have anything else on your mind that you really want to share now or discuss?
Yeah, just wanted to say that I'm writing a reply to Gudasol right now, and I will share it in the live chat on Telegram. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tadas. And yeah, perhaps I'll just share the screen. We got a heart from Gudasol. Sounds great. And I'm really excited about how Firmament can help Aquadac, as well as all sorts of communities, gain far greater independence than was ever before possible. So really cool to see collaborations. Obviously, Gudasol and Tadas are both great builders. So really cool to see it happening live before our eyes. And yeah, I'll share the screen real quick. For anybody who didn't see or didn't hear, doesn't recall, I just took a screenshot of the questions that Gudasol had asked. There's also several questions that were asked over audio, but Gudasol had asked how it settles, and if we require a list of all participants to settle anything, and how do you update that list. I think I have an idea about some of these questions, but I suppose I'll wait for Tadas to write that in text format. He also, Gudasol asked, where in the system is the permission to confirm a block link to an identifier, and what is the identifier, and is it another chain signing? If you did want to share any of those answers in voice, like just live to Tadas, then feel free right now, or of course we can wait for the text format, or if Gudasol you wanted to elaborate on any of those questions to help Tadas better answer whatever questions, or if you had any other questions on your mind, being that we're talking about Firmament already and we kind of left that topic open before, that might be an appropriate place to start. But if we're all good with these questions and Tadas is following up in text format later in the chat, then we can move on to the next topic. Does anybody else have any other thoughts or comments or questions regarding Firmament or the general flow of our conversation right now? Got a thumbs up from Gudasol. Sounds good.
Yeah, I for me, we have two great topics today. I would love a deep dive into either or both. So whatever if we can discuss either one of them and then maybe discuss the other one the next week, they're both super important, I think. What Tadas is doing seems very impactful to not only our group, but other groups. And what Dan the objections that we're getting, the obstacles is also super interesting. So either way or both, and then maybe one this week and another next week, if that can happen, that would be awesome.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you for your input, Perry, and I totally agree. Would anybody else like to share their thoughts about the best topics to discuss? If not, I'm also happy to. It looks like we're good to go with Firmament, like with a plan basically that Tadas felt like it was best to just write a response. But of course, Tadas, if you'd like to share any more thoughts, or if anybody else has any questions or comments about Firmament, I'd be happy to focus the discussion there. And while we're also still on the topic, I'll also just open up this article briefly about that I have at edencareers.com/Firmament that I haven't updated in the past couple. I updated like a month ago probably. I put together some art. I don't know if I told you all this, but based upon Tadas's background for Firmament, that seemed like a fitting artwork, because Firmament also kind of means like that it's kind of like the heavens in the sky or something like that. So it's fitting for Tadas's background, since it's always his background. And I put together some resources. This is from EF40 that I mentioned before, where Tadas gave an overview about Firmament and presented brilliant technical visions. It's also related to the Albedo initiative too, a research initiative. And I wrote a little story about this, kind of like how Rosmari was talking about show notes. I'd written some show notes back in week 40, where you can learn more about Firmament here, as well as a great interview that that Patrick hosted with Tadas, where you can learn more. And I had written some more stuff, as well as the Albedo page too, which I don't know how active Tadas is working on Albedo right now as opposed to Firmament, but there's also a place where you can learn a lot of amazing work that Tadas has been doing that's quite related to Albedo. And I think they are like Firmament is kind of like the product of Albedo as far as I understand it. So these are just some resources in case anybody hasn't checked it out or wants to learn more about Firmament, where you can learn a whole lot more. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Tadas's follow-up in text to respond to Gudasol's questions, as well as the next iterations of the software, and really appreciate Tadas sharing all that great progress. If it's cool with everybody, so I keep starting a sentence and then jumping in with another thought. So I was going to say, if anybody else has any thoughts about Firmament, then please feel free to jump in. And if not, then I suppose that we can move on to the other topic that Perry suggested about Optimism Fractal. But there's also a couple other quick updates that I'd like to share with these other topics, so maybe I'll do that first. And then if anybody else has any other topics in mind, then please let us know now. In the future, what might be helpful is like if I can get the Slido poll more prepared. So maybe we'll ask Rosmari to help with that in the future when we play this game. So we'll have that. Currently, it just takes a little bit of time, and I'm the only person who can set that up right now. So like I said, we can get that set up, but for now, we can just kind of play it by ear. And if anybody else wants to voice their opinion on what topics they want to discuss most, then we'll go with that. But otherwise, we'll just go with Perry's suggestion about Firmament and the Optimism Fractal proposal updates. And I'll share like a couple brief updates here. So I'll leave a moment to silent in case anyone wants to jump in and share their thoughts about what topics are best to discuss. And then if not, then I'll jump into the brief overview of some of the topics I wanted to share, and then we'll go into the Optimism Fractal stuff, as Barry suggested. All right, and it looks like we have consensus to go ahead with the next topics. So yeah, well, first off, I'll just also give an update, well, just follow up on the Aquadac discussions. I just, well, this is all stuff that we shared basically, but I'll just write here some of these links that we talked about before. And of course, too, I mentioned a few times in the past that this whole Notion database and whole Notion page, like we just created this Notion site for Eden Fractal over the past weeks, and it's still kind of messy and early draft. I'm working on some projects. Actually, this is a bunch of related projects that I have to clean up a bit, but yeah, basically this is a work in progress. But there's already like 5 or 6 of us who have joined this group. So if anybody wants to join the Notion database or Notion page to be able to write here directly, then feel free. And we're also working on a type form where people can add directly topics to here and edit topics. So if anyone wants to like collaborate on this Notion page while we're doing meetings, then feel free to let me know, and I'll happy to give you access. And then also we're going to make it easier and easier for people to interact with us in the future. And then I suppose I'll also move on to the other topics. I just added edencreators.com/Aquadac and lou.ma/aqua do the Aquadac updates, and eventually when we have the show notes for next week, you can learn more about all these great things we've been talking about in more detail. The other thing I want to talk about real quick before we get into the Optimism Fractal updates, one is just I texted with Vlad, and Vlad did put together a proposal. So last week I had mentioned that I tried to use msig.app to make a proposal to update the Eden Fractal permissions. This is something that we discussed over the recent weeks, and there were some technical issues, but Vlad did us a great favor to do the code necessary, like to write the script to update the Eden Fractal MSIG. So he just did that earlier today, and so I'm going to be reaching out to Patrick and James, and then when we get 4 of us, Vlad has already approved it, and I'll approve it. Then I'll just review this to make sure that they're all correct, but I'm pretty sure Vlad did it all correct. I gave him all the information from where we proposed it. And so I just want to give an update there. This should be done this week, and we'll have the MSIG officially updated. I also see Eric said, please provide access to Notion database. Can you please clarify what you mean by that, Eric? Because right now it's public where everybody should be able to see it. But right now you can only have access to edit it if you have your email. So if you'd like me to give you edit access, then I would just need your email to be able to give you edit access.
Sure.
Okay, great. And you could just send that to me in a private message or wherever is best, and then I'll give you edit access right away. All right. Well, thanks for asking, Eric. And yeah, if anybody else wants it, then happy to share that. The other thing I wanted to update, there's not really an update about Jitsi, but I just remembered it's been a couple of weeks since we talked about this, and we still have this Notion project. So if people are interested in switching over to Jitsi rather than Zoom, then this has a project for different improvements that we wanted to do, or that at least I wanted to do before feeling comfortable with entirely switching to Jitsi. There were a couple tasks here that we had organized to learn about, like or just to complete and to do better research, like to figure out a couple technical issues. Like I remember Eric and Pascal were having some issues with Jitsi as well as Vlad. So these are really the main issues. There's 3 technical issues or technical issues from 3 people, and then there's some other things we might want to research in the future. But if anybody wants to move to Jitsi and that's a high priority for people, then this topic is available where we can research this, and it's set up in the Notion projects format. I showed that a bit in the past, but Notion has a really powerful new system for organizing projects that we're starting to use. So basically, if anyone wants to collaborate there and help us resolve these technical issues and also do some other research in Jitsi, then I'd appreciate that, and feel free to help out however you'd like. And then we can move over to Jitsi whenever he's ready, but we're also happy to stay over at Zoom. So I just wanted to provide a little update about that. And then one other update that I wanted to share too, before getting into the Optimism Fractal proposal, is about Optimism RetroPGF. So as I mentioned last week, we discussed this in pretty deep detail. The Optimism RetroPGF, it's coming up, and they actually just announced the date. The applications just opened yesterday, and they're open until October 23rd. And as far as I'm aware, this is the largest retroactive public goods funding program in the world. They're planning to distribute 30 million OP in this round of RetroPGF. It's the 3rd round. In the first round, they distributed $1 million. In the second round, they distributed $10 million or 10 million OP. And then the 3rd round, they're distributing 30 million OP. I think the current value of that is something like $40 million. And that is currently about 200 times more funding than the next season of Pomelo. Or than this season Pomelo. This season Pomelo also just opened up yesterday as well, so people can apply there. There's $150,000 worth of EOS that will be distributed in season 7 of Pomelo. So encourage people to check that out. And then also RetroPGF, it's a super exciting initiative that has an immense amount of funding, and they're also super or highly aligned with our goals of like funding public goods and helping humanity cooperate, empowering communities. They have this idea of impact equals profit, where basically they want to make it so that people who create a positive impact for optimism and communities and the world in general receive profit. So it's a really inspiring vision, and actually Rosmari put together an article. I started putting together the article, and she did a lot of great work on it this week. You can check it out at edencreators.com/optimism, in addition to, thanks for sharing it in the Zoom chat, Rosmari, where you can learn more about optimism. It's still a draft article. She's working on it a lot yesterday, so huge thanks once again. But you can learn an intro to optimism here with lots of details and lots of helpful links where you can learn more about optimism and RetroPGF. I recommend checking out the videos from the recent weeks where I gave a presentation about optimism and a lot of different initiatives like RetroPGF. These videos, they're still in unlisted mode, but you can find them at the bottom of this page now, and we'll be publishing them publicly soon, and they're all available to watch. And as Rosmari shared in her work in her breakout rooms, and I shared at the beginning, there's a lot of great resources curated here where you can learn more about these in our show notes, as well as the optimism article. So you could see like my presentation here and lots of great discussions. Perry and Noam and Eric shared some great insights and thoughts about this, as well as other community members. So just wanted to provide a little high level overview if people haven't checked it out. And yeah, specifically their site, app.optimism.io/RetroPGF explains and provides a great overview here. And they put out some tweets on the Optimism FND Twitter account where you can learn more about the Optimism RetroPGF that has just been announced. And they have a little sign up form here too. Perhaps I started moving around the page. Rosemary shared this, but she provided a lot of really helpful information here where you can learn exactly how it all works and where you can sign up and stuff like that. So I recommend people check this out. The grant application that we made, it's like it's a lot smaller in terms of how much funding and stuff is available. There was a total of $1 million in this grant program that we applied to, and we applied for 30,000 OP, which is like a pretty small percentage of that, but it's a huge amount of funding that is available, and it's a huge community. And this is also closely aligned with the entire Ethereum ecosystem as well. And they have these beautiful concepts like Esther's Phoenix and the optimistic vision that Rosmari curated here, where you can learn more, as well as the OP stack. They've been working with many of the most successful companies in the world, like Coinbase and WorldCoin, who are building blockchains with the OP stack. So, and it's also highly reviewed by Vitalik Buterin, Kevin Owocki, a bunch of amazing people. And you can check out the show notes at the bottom of EdenCares.com/optimism. Huge thanks, Rosmari, for putting this all together, and recommend people to all check it out. I just wanted to provide a little update there and some context, because this is a way that, while the proposal that we put out was just kind of a way to get started and introduce ourselves to the community, but I think it's very worth it for the community and each community member to consider how we can best approach and navigate like the coming weeks and coming months as RetroPGF happens. The deadlines close on October 23rd, and then the actual voting happens. There's about 200 badge holders who vote. And that happens between November 7th and December 7th or something like that. So there's also a blog post here where you can learn more details. So I'm still not sure like how we can apply, if we can apply for as Eden Fractal. In the proposal I made for Optimism Fractal, I also mentioned how we want to like empower Eden Fractal with these tools and make more collaborations, but maybe people also apply with their like individual projects that they've been working on as well. So that's something that I want to ask questions to them and learn about. I'm kind of scrolling through this page quickly because there's a lot of information here. But yeah, these are all links and resources that you can learn in the article that Rosmari just shared in the Zoom chat. She shared two, as well as the topics database and EdenCares.com/optimism, and the most recent two videos that we shared in the show notes. So anyway, if anybody has any questions or comments or thoughts about that, then happy to discuss. That kind of goes pretty closely along with Perry's, with the topic that Perry wanted to discuss about Optimism Fractal, but also in case anybody missed it or isn't totally sure about some of the details, and also wasn't aware of this new announcement that just came out yesterday that it has now started and it's open till the 23rd for applications. Just wanted to provide a little bit more insight about that, so we could start thinking about that and how that can collaborate and work with our proposal for the Optimism Fractal. So yeah, if anybody has any more questions or comments about that, then happy to discuss it. And then also, yeah, this is actually stuff that we already shared last week, so I don't have to do that. If nobody has any questions or comments, I see Perry had a question, had hands up, so I'll pass it over to Perry.
Thanks, Dan. My first question is, what is the name of the proposal that you just made, or not the proposal, but the grant offering, as opposed to this RetroPGF or something like that? What are the two different names? There's two different systems, and you just applied to one, and then there's another one coming up that you just described. What are the different names, so we don't get confused between the two grant systems?
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Perry. So I'll open up some new tabs here to further elaborate on this and provide a distinction between the grant that we applied for and RetroPGF, and also I'll also maybe provide a little overview of some other kind of like all the different grant opportunities within the Optimism ecosystem. So I applied along with Tadas and Rosmari and Vlad for the Optimism Grants Council. And this is an initiative that they just had there's been 4 seasons of Optimism like governance, so to speak, I think, and there's been 15 cycles of the Optimism Grants Council. It just ended the current season, so now we're waiting to see if the next season it'll return in the same way or if it'll evolve in some way. But what we applied for was the Optimism Grants Council, and we particularly applied for the Builder Subcommittee version, or like just like subcommittee, a part of the Grants Council, which is about bringing builders to the Optimism ecosystem, basically. So this is what we applied to there, and our proposal specifically was called Optimism Fractal. You can find that. I already provided the link somewhere. It's in the Telegram chat, where you can find it in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat. If you scroll up a little bit, or if you go to proposals, then you can go and you can find a lot. And then if you scroll down and then just search for Optimism Fractal, you can also find it here as well. So that is what we applied for with Optimism Fractal. And then if you go to optimism.io, 2 other helpful resources here. There's optimism.io optimism.io and Optimism Grants.io, I believe. So yeah, so and this is Optimism Grants.io, which is made by a community member who I think received funding from the Optimism community to create this. It's not like the main resource to find. The main resource where you can find this is Optimism.io, but this is just a helpful resource that I found, where a community member, and I also can't verify this like all, because it's just like some random dude who seems to have good intentions, and it's not like a huge risk or anything like that, but like just take it for what it's worth. This isn't the official website, but it seems to be very well done from what I can tell. This explains like kind of the calendar of events or funding opportunities going on with Optimism, and provides a little bit more detail about some different grant opportunities and stuff like that. So this is just one helpful resource, but really I think the most helpful thing to also further elaborate on the difference between these is if you go to optimism.io and then you go to their documentation, which you can get to by hovering on developers in the top, then going to documentation, and then it opens up this page, and if you search the docs for grants, then there's a page here called Get a Grant, and then it provides an overview of the 5 different grant opportunities that go on the Optimism Collective. So the first one that we applied to was the Grants Council, and there's more details about this and the Builders Grants and what we applied to. And then there's also Token House missions and Foundation missions, which are currently not open, but these are also different ways to raise funding in the Optimism community, and they're very like well organized from what I can tell. People have really interesting proposals, and lots of funding has been distributed here, and you can see examples, and people have like an active forum where people are posting updates and stuff like that. It's very well organized and impressive overall, but these aren't currently open, so hopefully they'll open in the coming weeks or months, and there'll be lots more opportunities in the future, I think. And they also have a partner fund, which is kind of like reaching out directly to the foundation. And then at the bottom here is the retroactive grants, or rather the RetroPGF. And the RetroPGF is by far the biggest opportunity, and this is all about retroactive public goods funding, which is like basically there's something called a citizens house, which is like they have people who are badge holders. There's currently about 200 of them, and they can invite one badge holder every season. So it grew from like 30 badge holders in the first season. Now there's like 200. The next season there'll be like, I guess, 400 or 500 or whatever. And this is where basically those badge holders can vote to distribute the RetroPGF. These are all like more the Grants Council and token missions. These are kind of more organized with like smaller teams and less funding, but still a considerable amount of funding available. And the Retroactive PGF is like the largest amount of funding from the ecosystem, and it works with this Citizens House with more funding opportunities. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the difference between the Grants Council application that we made with the Builder Subcommittee and the RetroPGF, as well as some of the other grant opportunities in the ecosystem for the Optimism community. And then our proposal for the Optimism Fractal, you can see it once again. I put the link, or that link is shared in the Telegram chat, but there you can see more details. Basically, the proposal we made was specifically to build the initial tool set for the first season of Optimism Fractal with EVM compatible tools for social consensus games, and also to host the first season of Optimism Fractal, as well as build like educational welcoming materials and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of stuff related to that. So like we kind of made proposals specifically to get it started and get it going with the Optimism Fractal, and also build the tools that Eden Fractal and other communities could use. And then RetroPGF could reward that work, as well as lots of other kinds of work that's related to Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal, and anything else that could help the Optimism Collective and really the world as a whole. Does that help answer your question, Perry? Or anything else you have that you're curious about?
Yeah, it does help. It does help. And my feedback at this point is, and I have another question, another important question, but before I go to that, my feedback is that of all of these different grants to these large communities like Optimism, I think I guess the best way to say it is that we are stronger if we have synergies if we can group together. So I think you mentioned that we could individually maybe apply and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's true. But I think there are synergies that could be had if we come as a group. And if we come as a group, we could present ourselves as a lab. Excuse me. So to say it another way, if you're a developer, if you're building something, yeah, that's good, and that's valuable, and you certainly are a candidate for a grant. But if you have a group of people who are exercising and testing and getting feedback from your work, that's even more powerful. That's a difference between a developer and a lab. So, and that you could use that analogy for a number of things. So if we can somehow form a plan, a proposal that includes developers and this group as a whole, which I think that's what you've done. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's what you've done to some degree. I think that's a good thing. So synergies is what at one point. And the other thing that I want to ask about, which is really the focus, is that feedback from that group. Like I want to go through each one of those items and find out what the objections were, right? Like, as if we were salesmen. And you know, when salesmen teach each other, when they go through sales training, they teach each other to address the objections, to address the obstacles. So I would be very interested to go to that spreadsheet that you had and just read each reviewer's objection. Like, what was the problem, right? And so we can maybe consider get feedback from everybody on how to adapt the proposal. I don't know. That's what strikes my mind. That's
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, excellent points. Thank you so much, Perry. So I suppose I'll respond to that. I've also been talking a lot too, so if anyone else wants to share some thoughts, feel free. But Perry shared lots of inspiring thoughts that I'm happy to respond to. So I'll go ahead first, I suppose. So I suppose there was like two main kind of like topics you brought up that are good to respond to. The first being like coming together as a group and working together to make a proposal, and the second one being like basically addressing the objections or places where they don't understand it. And I'm also not sure if I'd like classify it as objections, because I mean they do like it. Like both the reviewers who read it so far, they both said like they see potential in it, drawing builders and helping people and stuff like that. But I think it's just that they're not totally sure in how much it can help. And you know, of course, they're working with a limited budget, and there's lots of other exciting projects too. So we do need to like work on like figure out the best way to communicate it. And I agree, looking at that and looking at it together can really help. And I really appreciate you sharing those thoughts, Perry. I will also, it is shared, by the way, in the Notion page, and I'll also share the screen again in a little bit probably, and we can go through those together on the call if you'd like. And of course, I'm happy to discuss this outside of the call, outside of the weekly Eden Fractal call. We are at almost an hour for the Cagendas game, although we did start late, so I'm happy to stay on for a while once again. Yeah, if anybody does want to talk about these things outside, then I'm happy to discuss them in more detail as well, and discuss them more and discuss more ways that we can collaborate. But yeah, for sure we can discuss a lot of it here too. And so yeah, a couple things. One, about coming together as a group, I agree very much. And yeah, that is what we've done, at least to some extent, for this proposal. So as I mentioned, this proposal for the Optimism Grants Council, well, the Optimism Grants Council, it just ended their 15th cycle in their 4th season. So we had discovered that, or I discovered that, like, I guess it was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And then the application was due like 2 weeks ago. So I discovered it like basically like 5 days or 6 days, something like that, before the application was due. And so at the time, I meet every week with Tadas and Vlad and Rosmari, and I know lots of people, like I've spoken with Eric and Joe and Gudasol and Perry and Lisa, and many people who have said like who want to help collaborate. And I was like wondering like, well, what's the best way to do this? Because I want to have some way to collaborate with everybody, but also there's a limited amount of time to be able to do this and be able to explain. So we ended up just making the proposal with us 4, and I figured that would be a way where like we could keep it like concise just for this. But since that this proposal is kind of just like more a way to introduce ourselves to the community, we could go at it with kind of like this smaller team and just make the proposal and get our foot in the door. And then the RetroPGF is obviously a lot bigger opportunity. There's all these other opportunities that we can work together towards in the future. And I agree, like having it where the whole community, you know, there's many people in the community who are on this call and who've joined many calls in the past. There's been like 80 people or so who have joined Eden Fractal meetings, and a bunch of people in other Fractal communities too, like Cagendas Fractal and all these different things, who I think would really appreciate this opportunity or might be interested in collaborating, and especially all the people who are here on this call. And so it's a matter of figuring out the best way to do it. Like I do think there's a potential that like it depends on how the RetroPGF is structured. We have to ask some questions to understand how it works, because like it might work where we could apply for Eden Fractal as a whole, and then maybe people get rewarded in Eden Fractal from RetroPGF according to how much respect they earn, which would be awesome. And maybe you can apply for both Eden Fractal as a whole and also individual projects. So for example, like Perry, if you wanted to also focus some aspects of D News on Optimism, that could be a way to also, in addition to funding Eden Fractal, it could also fund D News, and maybe Tadas work with Firmament also can get funded directly, or maybe that all gets funded through Eden Fractal, or maybe it all gets funded through Optimism Fractal, or maybe some other way. Like maybe I'm not sure how it works as far as if you can make multiple things where you can receive funding or just one. So that's all stuff that I totally agree we should collaborate and work together for it, and we can make a much better impression. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to bring it up, and I've tried to bring this up over the past like month for every meeting basically, because I think it's really helpful to discuss these things basically and figure out the best way to collaborate and go at it. I'd be very happy to hear if more people have thoughts about that. I'm sure people do, but maybe I'll also keep it short and leave it there, and happy to hear more of your thoughts about that, Perry. And then regarding your second point about looking at like the proposal and seeing what points they were not totally understanding and then kind of addressing that, I totally agree. And if you'd like, I can now share my screen once again to show the proposal, or rather show their feedback to the proposal, and we could go through that. And I'd also be happy to go through the feedback that I provided, like based on their feedback, or my responses to their feedback, rather, where I tried my best to respond to their feedback and help clarify it, and also collaborate with Rosmari, Tadas, and Vlad about that. So I'm happy to go through the rubric and discuss that, and could also share some more about the feedback that I shared, because I kind of rushed through it a little bit, but there's a lot of helpful details there. So curious, Perry, if you have any thoughts about that, if you want to follow up, or if anybody else has any other thoughts. If anybody else wants to guide the discussion in a different direction too, or we can also wrap up soon if we want, because it's pretty late, but I'm happy to stay on longer. So does anybody else have any other thoughts, or Perry, you want to respond to that, or should we dive into the rubric response now on the call, or also people can read that later if you think it's more appropriate too?
Yeah, if you, I wasn't able to find the spreadsheet you're referring to in the Notion page.
Okay.
So maybe if you could drop the exact location or just describe it, then I can, I can read it later. We don't have to discuss. I think that's kind of top of mind for me.
Okay, Perry, I'm sorry, but I just had an audio issue. Would you mind repeating that? My computer just froze up for like past like 20 seconds. I heard the beginning about sharing the direct link, or showing you exactly where the feedback is. So I heard that part, and I heard it's kind of top of mind for you, but I missed like the 15 seconds in between that.
That's the point. It's
okay.
just get the link so I can review it, and it doesn't have to be now. Maybe now is not the best time. That's fine. But I'm curious to know personally what their objections was, or whatever feedback they gave. That's important.
Okay.
So where do I find that?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you. So I suppose first I'll just share my screen, and I can follow up with a link. So it is in the Notion, in the Eden Fractal Topics Notion database, but I just realized that, yeah, I did not make that clear about how to find that exactly. So specifically right now where I have it organized is in the Optimism Fractal Proposal Update page of the database. So if you go and click that link that I just shared in the Eden Fractal Telegram live chat, it's one of the most recent messages there. Then it'll bring you to this page. I also just gave access to Eric as well. And you have access to this page, Perry. So you could also, well, you don't need access to it in order to edit it, because everybody can read it. It's a public page. But yeah, basically you click that link in the Eden Fractal Telegram group, and then you go to the page where it says Optimism Fractal Proposal Updates. You have to click where it says open here. It's a little bit non-intuitive, but you have to click where it says open there, and it opens inside Peak. And then I just took a screenshot of the messages that I shared with Vlad and Tadas to give them an update early in the week, because I figured that was kind of a helpful way to just provide an update for everybody here in the community. And then below there is where you can see the both all of the projects as well as the score that we received, the Optimism Fractal And once again, we just barely made it too. So we had a 20 and you needed at least a 20 to make it to the final review. And then I took a screenshot of all of their feedback here. So that is where you can see their feedback, and you can find it once again by going to Optimism Fractal proposal updates. So you can feel free to read that. They have, and they'll also share the actual link to the proposal where you can see this if you wanted to see it in any other way. But yeah, basically this is just screenshots of everything that was included there. And then I think I have the other window open where I can share it more directly. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused with my windows, but
yeah, I will say, Dan, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
seeing that in the Eden Fractal topics. For some
Mm-hmm.
reason, it doesn't, that the one that you displayed is not being shown to me. So Optimism Fractal proposal updates is not visible from my.
Oh, what it might be is that it's not properly showing maybe in the database view. So this is something I've been a little bit confused about, and I've been experimenting with different views. So Perry, could you try, do you see where I'm showing my screen right now? Right underneath the title where it says Eden Fractal Topics, there's a little section up here where it says EF68 Topics, and then there's different views that you can see. Are you in the EF68 Topics view?
I am, and I don't have a drop down. It's just, that's all there is.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, yeah, so I'll just share a link directly to it, and I'll troubleshoot that to figure out why it's not working from your side. I'm pretty sure you should have access
I don't
to
see
it.
that. I don't see a drop down either, just so you know.
Okay, interesting. Well, it depends on the window orientation. So if you have like a wide window, then it will just show it like this. Did you guys see other topics at all, or just that one EF68 topics? I see Tadas that have to go. See you next time. All right, see you, Tadas, and thanks so much. In the meantime, I'll just share a link directly. But I appreciate if you guys can let me know if you guys do see all the different views, or rather what views you can see.
I see 68 new topics, all table, and topics for 67.
Okay. And if you go to any of those, like for example, all just has all of them. It's not filtered at all, so it has a bunch of old topics. Then can you see it there? One thing that might help is if you hit the search button. In the top part of the database, there's this little magnifying glass, so you should be able to go to all and then type in like project, or actually no, it's not called project, it's called proposal. Then it should come up there. Do you see it then?
I'm not exactly sure what I did, but I now see it.
Yeah, I see Optimum Fractal proposal updates in the future.
Yeah, now I see.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the feedback and patience as I'm working to better understand how this works. I'm still not totally sure like which ones show. I'm not sure why you don't see it in the 68. Maybe it required a page refresh, because I think I just added it actually like a half hour ago. So maybe that's the reason why.
Well, now I get the drop down with the different choices. So EF68 topics is now a drop down. Before it was not. So something changed. Not sure what. Something changed.
Okay. Did you try refreshing, or I mean, I didn't change anything on my end while we were having discussion. So okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
I did click it a few times, but nothing seemed to change. Well, now it's. Oh, this is weird. Oh. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that doesn't make sense. You are right. As I click on it in full screen, I don't get any choices. It's not a drop down. However, if I reduce the size of my browser, it then becomes a drop down and exposes different topics to navigate to. So from a UI point of view, that doesn't make sense why they would do that. You have to reduce your screen size to navigate to another location. Yeah. So that's not you're exactly right. It had to do with screen size. Which is bizarre.
Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, thanks for the feedback. I mean, I've noticed sometimes Notion is a little bit buggy. It's like a very elaborate web app, so it's amazing that they are able to pull it off in the first place, kind of. But the way it should work, I don't know if you can see it like I do right now, but when I have like a wide view window, I'm able to see all the different databases you use. And if I want to add another one, say for next week, I want to go say new view and I want to call it EF69, then I could call it that. And then this would show up here. And if I want to make another view for EF70 and so forth, then I could do that. And then I could apply a filter for each one. And then only if I make the window smaller, or say if I bring up something inside view, then it condenses it. So it's working very well from my side. Is that not how it's working for you?
No, you're exactly right. Operator error. You're exactly right. They're lined up across the horizontally. So I wasn't sure, because I didn't know what was going to be dropping down. I didn't recognize those as the choices. But now you're exactly right. So okay, so now I get a drop down, and now I've found EF68 topics, and I found Optimism Fractal proposal updates. I've opened it, and now I'm there, and I'm scrolling down, and I'm seeing a list. I can see that we're number 38, and I can see the largest number I can scan here looks to be 51, maybe. I don't know. So are we 38 of 51? I don't know.
Well, yeah, so just to be clear, this first row, I think that's pretty meaningless from our standpoint, where we have 38 and there's 51. I think that's just like an internal thing for their grants council about like what number the proposal is. I have no idea what it means really. But that's not meaning anything for us. What matters for us is the preliminary average, which is on the right side of the column where we have a 20. And the top is a 32. And the bottom...
And the green, the green indicates further review?
Yeah, green means that we made the final review. So for a little bit extra context here, if there's another page that I shared previously, let's see if I have it open somewhere on Charmverse. Yeah, there's an explanation, and there's also a cycle 15 preliminary roundup. So over here in the builder subcommittee, you can see kind of like what the goal of the builder subcommittee. I see Eric said gotta go. Thank you, Eric. Hope you have a great day. If you want to share any more thoughts before you had to go, feel free. Really appreciate it. And just us three, so yeah, we could probably wrap it up pretty soon. But yeah, I wanted to also add here, yeah, so this subcommittee provides like an overview of what they're aiming to do, and then the way that they receive this, or the way that they derive this score of 20 and 32 and so forth, is they go through. There was 2 reviewers who reviewed it. So first we passed the initial intake, which is like one reviewer who says like, yeah, it's good enough to send to another reviewer. 95% of the proposals in the builder's application approved this. You can see in this the Cycle 50 preliminary roundup where they explain it, and so there was 54 total grants in the builders program, and 51 grants passes intake filter, 95%. And then of that, or of the total, there was 43% of the total 54 grants made it to the next stage of the review, which is the final review. And that's the one where we just barely made it. And we're among these builders. These are the ones who received at least 20. And these were derived by their rubric proposals. Their 2 reviewers went through and reviewed it based upon builder draw and development of OP stack and builder commitment and likelihood of success. And they have these standardized things depending on, you know, if they think it's likely to draw a lot of builders optimism and lead to a lot of smart contracts and lead to committed builders and create long-term value and all these different things. And if it's novel and if it's open source and stuff like that. So this is kind of how it all, how they derive that. And then that leads to the thing that we have where I was just showing it here, where we get the score of 20. The max score that anybody received is 32. And then there's several other ones that were below the screenshot where they received like 8 or 5 or whatever. And then you could see our scores here where we could receive, like, say, a total score of 8 for this top builder draw, because both of the reviewers could have given us a 4 if they thought that we were likely to draw a large number of builders who focus on building novel products. But we received a total score of 3 out of 8. One of the reviewers gave us a 1 because he thought the project is likely to draw more builders to Optimism, and one of them said,
Can I stop you just for a second, Dan?
Yes.
And just ask you to help me understand this image that you're on right now?
Yep.
Is this whole thing relating to to your proposal, or is this multiple people's proposals?
Yeah. So this is multiple people's proposals here. All this is just all the proposals that were made in this program. And then this specifically is, and I should add a header here to make that more clear, Optimism Fractal, like rubric scores and feedback. And I can add like a header here that says like all proposals in builder subcommittee. Yeah, and so just to clarify, all of these scores, you could see where it says 1, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Where it says 19 at the top, that's a total score from one of the reviewers. One of the reviewers gave us a 19, so they did not think that we should receive a 20 and move to the final review. And one of them gave us a 23 in total. And you can see their individual scores on this list. And I just took screenshots, so there's 3 different screenshots which show all of those. And then you can also see their comments left next to it, as well as what those scores mean in their opinion.
Okay. Okay, so vertically, it's showing, it's the 19 and the 22, those columns, those are each individual reviewers, and they're going through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What does the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 refer to?
Yeah, so that refers to the scores on the right side under where it says builder's rubric at the top. There's a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top there, and then for each one in this table, there's a different kind of explanation. So for example, development of OP stack is the second rubric score thing that they're reviewing.
Oh, I see.
And so they have different ideas about how many smart contracts it will lead to. And in that case, they said the project will lead to a deployment of a small number of contracts on Optimism. So it wasn't very clear to them that it would lead to a large amount of smart contracts on Optimism. And they
now
also
I think they're not writing these comments. These are like evaluation standards, and they're just choosing them. And that number 1 is really is just mapping to the column 1. So the guy with the 23 column, he, in the second row, he gave us a 1, which maps to project will lead to the deployment of a small number of small smart contracts on Optimism. So that was his opinion. Okay, now I'm getting it.
And they do leave comments too. So if they do have additional comments in addition to picking the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 0, then there's a section in the comments where like they wrote, it's bolded right to the left of that, where they said, for example, oriented towards building a specific kind of builders from the gaming community. So in the case of builder draw in the top column, in the top row, he thought that he gave it a 2, which means that he believed that the project is likely to draw many builders in Optimism. And then he gave a comment saying that he thinks they're likely to be builders from the gaming industry.
Okay, so they just follow immediately to the right of their evaluation number. Okay. Okay, I get it. I think I know how to read this. So this is page 1, and then there's a page 2 to it. It's essentially the same deal, and a page 3.
Yeah, well, it's all on the same page. This is just screenshots, and you can also find this in the actual proposal too. So maybe I'll just change the screen that I'm sharing real quick, because I have this other window open where you can see more details. So yeah, this page here, this is the actual proposal that I made, and this is also linked in there where you can see all the stuff I showed you before, like the actual proposal we made on Charmverse for this application. And then this is the most recent response. So if you wanted to see, those are screenshots I took, but if you wanted to see the actual spreadsheet, I mean, it's not really very useful because I already showed the screenshots and everything you want to see. But if you wanted to see the primary source where they publish that, you could click here, and that's where you see it directly on there without the screenshots. And then this is also where I shared my response there as well. And this has a Notion page that I shared in the during my Respect Game contribution, where I tried to respond to each one of their comments here. I suppose I'm kind of going and getting ahead of your questions, but I figure this is helpful to just provide some more context for what I was doing today. So Yeah, so for example, I went through some of the places where they gave us a relatively lower score, like for example, likelihood of respect. They gave us a 2 out of 4 or a 4 out of 8 for that. They thought that they had a reasonable chance of intermediate to long-term success, but they didn't think it had a substantial likelihood to generate long-term substantial value for the Optimism ecosystem. So I went through and, well, first off, we asked some questions like to clarify what they meant, but then also I went through and like I tried to provide more context to help them understand why I believe and our team believes that it has a substantial likelihood to generate the long-term substantial value. And I wrote quite a bit in detail here. Yeah, right now I think this is just shared with us, but if you'd like, Perry can also share a copy with this with you. So if you want to write comments on it or make edits and stuff like that, then we can do that. And I did the same thing for the builder draw. They gave us a 3 out of 8 total. So I wrote reasons why we think it's likely to draw a large number of builders and lots of text and reasoning why, and same for a few of the other rubric scores as well.
Yeah, sure. Share it with me. I'm interested in learning about why these, what their feedback is, and so is this is ongoing, right? So they haven't made their final decision, or they have?
They have not yet made their final decision. They'll be making their final decision by this Saturday, the 23rd. So that's why I was up late last night, the past couple of nights working on this, and I just shared it. It's not like 100% like the best writing. Like it's very good. I think it's got a lot of really great stuff, and it will be really helpful for us with Optimism as well as everywhere else. I think it's got a lot of really helpful stuff. But I kind of put it out in a bit of a rush, as well as the proposal, because it's due on, or they're going to make a final decision by Saturday, and I wanted to give them at least a few days to review it. And then also for context, you said you want to check it out. Where am I? I'm trying to find out the topics database. So this is also shared, this link that I shared with you. If you go back to that Optimism Fractal proposal updates page in the database, then I shared both a link to the proposal in addition to the screenshots of these things, and then the most recent feedback here where you can find these. Yeah, and if you'd like, I can also give you edit access or comment access to these if you do want to make comments, or just by default right now, you can also just read them because they're public.
Let me, at this moment, I'm just interested in reading them. I mean, if you want, I don't think I have anything.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if I'd be able to contribute to it. You're way ahead of me on this. I'm trying to figure out where you are and in this process. So yeah, it sounds like it's live, it's happening. You're about to figure it out. And how many, I think it looked like maybe 20 people, 20 different projects. You're within 20 projects. Is that what we're talking about? You've made it into a smaller group of 20 some projects?
Yeah.
Or are there more?
Yeah.
Well,
that's correct.
That's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, I think that's an achievement unto itself. Yep. If you think you need help on something like this, please feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help, but I'm just trying to keep up as to what you're doing. I don't know exactly. I haven't read the full proposal, but in essence, is this essentially just doing the same thing that we've been doing, or is there anything else? It's just saying we're a great community and we've got all kinds of people making stuff, or is it structured and focused in any way that it might be, that wouldn't be obvious to me?
Yeah, so thanks again, Perry, for all your interest and your question. First, before I get to respond to that, I'll just briefly respond to a couple of the other things you said. Yes, I mentioned before briefly, but in case you didn't hear, in case I'm not sure if I made it clear, yeah, so there was 54 grants that applied or proposals for this, and only and there was 43% of that made it to this round. So yeah, there's about 20 who we are in the company of who made it to this round, and then yeah, I really appreciate you being interested and wanting to read it. And then no need to help. I mean, like beyond what you're doing, because you're already providing enormous help by asking these questions and helping us make this video and helping educate everybody who might be watching this video in the future as well. I'm very happy to collaborate if you want. And if you do want access to edit or make comments at any point in the future, then I'm happy to share that with you. But for now, it's just all public. So just feel free to read, and then let me know if you do want to have further access, and I'll also keep that in mind too when I see like any specific area where you can help, and I really appreciate your offer. But just right now as is, I appreciate you just trying to learn about it and catch up and understand it all and stuff like that, and I'm very happy to discuss it, and that's super helpful. And then regarding your question that you asked at the end, like what the scope of the proposal is. So this is, well, once again, you can read the full proposal, and I encourage you to do so. It's I shared it both in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat last week, and then it's also, if you go to the Eden Fractal proposal updates section here, you could say the most recent feedback that I shared with those 5 sections about likelihood of success and stuff about the rubric responses in this link. And then this link is the actual grants proposal, where you can read the original proposal that we shared about 2 weeks ago when it was due. And those two combined have a lot of information about what we're doing, but the proposal itself provides like the most high-level overview to answer your first question. And that I have open here. This is just my response to the team member or to the Grants Council reviewer that I shared last night, introducing the Notion page and kind of following up with them. But when you read the Optimism Fractal proposal, you'll see there's a lot of information that you can get a good understanding of it from just the first 2 questions, which are, how do you justify the size of the request? And then also, what are you going to build? And basically what this explains is that the scope of the proposal that we made is to bootstrap Optimism Fractal. This is to develop tools that work on EVM, which work on Optimism as well as Ethereum or any other EVM-based chains, including EOS EVM or Arbitrum or whatever else it may be. And that includes, there's also some milestones below too, where you can learn more about this. But it includes a basic set of smart contracts to be able to post consensus results for social consensus games like we do here at Eden Fractal on Optimism or EVM chains, a front-end interface like we have that Vlad built, that Vlad is interested in helping with, and also adapting Fractalgram to work with the EVM smart contracts and the front-end interface. And then these are all open source. They can be used by other communities as well. And I think that we can and should also use these for Eden Fractal. So in addition to posting our consensus results on EOS, we can also post it on Optimism and other chains. And that could also work alongside Firmament too. And that could enable many other tools that we haven't been able to use that are on EVM that can enable us to be able to use them as well. And when we have this as well, when we can put our respect scores and so forth on EVM chains like the OP mainnet and Optimism. And then in addition to that, the other part of the funding that, or the other part of the proposal that we're making is to host the first season of Optimism Fractal, to basically start a new community called Optimism Fractal. I shared a bit of the branding for it before. Host a first season with 8 to 12 meetings, and create education materials like a welcome guide, and also like an introduction to respect game, introduction to Cagendas. I've also been talking a lot with Rosmari about making like kind of an intro tutorial series and like provide a little bit of history and stuff like that. So it's both the tools that we're building and then hosting the first season of Optimism Fractal. And this is also detailed more in the section about what are you going to build. So hosting the first season, building the tools, and making education materials to help people understand it is the scope of this proposal. And that can help for both. We aim to keep going with the Optimism Fractal. This is just for the first season, and we aim to build more tools, but this scope specifically is for the first season, the tools, the hosting, and the first set of education materials. And then we can make additional proposals or whatever it may be to continue building out Optimism Fractal, and then continue collaborating with Eden Fractal and other Fractal communities, with the Optimism community and other EVM-based communities.
And the number that you offered them was based on the feedback that you got from Tadas and Vlad, I assume, plus some extra money for other aspects of it, or not? Is it just basically we need this amount of money to pay developers to develop this software?
Yeah. Thank you for asking once again. So the funding we asked for, you can see here, there's a max request that we could have made of 50K OP. Once again, the OP token is currently worth like $1.30 or $1.40. So that's worth like $60,000, $70,000. We asked for 30,000 OP, which is, I guess, worth like $40,000 or so. And we, in this proposal, I wrote that 1/3 of the grant request would be to allocate towards developing tools to bootstrap it. So yeah, I spoke with Vlad and Tadas about how much funding they would need to be able to develop these tools, and that 1/3 of it is specifically allocated towards Vlad and Tadas to build the smart contracts front end and the and Fractalgram updates to update these. If you scroll down to, there's also a section, as I mentioned before, about milestones that we're aiming to achieve. There's benchmark milestones of things that we're aiming to achieve, like aspirational, about achieving attendance of 50 unique people and 100 new people and 500 unique people and so forth. And there's critical milestones showing the dates that they are that they committed to delivering these by if this proposal is passed. So if this proposal is approved, then Vlad and Tadas have committed to finishing these or developing these 3 components of the tool set for Optimism Fractal and EVM fractals by, I believe it's November 17th. And then we also committed to hosting at least 8 events and releasing the welcome guide within the next 6 months. And then, yeah, the remainder of the funding, the 2/3 of funding, is for basically the marketing team and the hosting team and all of the other stuff that we're doing, creating education materials, providing support service and so forth, which will be used to fund myself and also fund Rosmari, who would help very much in this proposal to be able to do all of these things, as well as perhaps also use some of that funding to fund other community members who might be able to help with this as well.
Okay. The last question is, what is the difference between this proposal system and the upcoming one, the retro? How do you see the difference between them?
Yeah, good question. So I shared before, there's this nice page from at optimism.io called Get a Grant, where they have the 5 different opportunities. So basically, these 4 first opportunities, Grants Council, token missions, foundation missions, and partner fund, these are all kind of like run by smaller teams that are working closely with the Optimism Foundation to distribute funding. And these are kind of like they're quite well developed in terms of like having lots of rubrics and things like that, where like these kind of centralized teams are working to allocate funding, and they're more so focused on allocating funding for future development, like kind of like how the ENF used to have the ENF grant framework, where you could go and you could say, I want to do X, I want to build these smart contracts, or I want to go build this community or do whatever, but I don't have funding right now, so I need funding to be able to do this thing in the future. These kind of accomplish that goal, where these are forward-looking, saying, I want to do something to help the community, and I need funding to do so, and I want a proposal to do so. That's what the Grants Council is, and the Grants Council has a pretty long application process with 30 questions, whatever that you want to end, that they want you to answer, and they're going to rubric score your answers depending on that to say if you should get the funding to do X in the future. The difference between that, what's that?
Prepays.
Yep, exactly. RetroPGF, it's backwards looking, so it works more like Eden Fractal, works more like Fractally, it works more like Pomelo as well, where it's about retroactive public goods funding. It's about funding things that people have done in the past. There's the idea of Vitalik Buterin and Dan Larimer, a lot of great thinkers have come up with the idea that, hey, it's easier to be able to allocate funding and decide how much things are helping after you see it happen. And so rather than just rewarding people for things that they promise to do in the future, say they'll do in the future, it's really helpful to just see what people do and then reward them if they do helpful work. That's a big part of Eden Fractal, where we say, what did you do over the past week or past few weeks, and how much respect does that deserve? So this is largely focused on the same ideas. Also, like Vitalik Buterin has been working closely with Optimism, as well as a lot of great thinkers who are all about retroactive public goods funding. Vitalik's written an article and been on videos talking about RetroPGF and retroactive grants. I think it's an amazing concept and super helpful. And so that's one of the main differences between RetroPGF and these other funding opportunities, that it's backwards looking as opposed to forward looking. The other differences are one is who is doing like the voting or who's doing the allocating and determining who gets the funding. So as I mentioned, there's kind of like more centralized teams who are working for the Grants Council. For example, there was 3 council members who were elected to be the reviewers in the Grants Council that we're applying for. And there's 7 total members on the Grants Council, all of them elected by what they call the token house, who of OP token holders. Whereas the retroactive grants program, the RetroPGF, is allocated by the Citizens House. I mentioned that they have like a kind of like a dual house system for a bicameral governance. They have the Citizens House and the Token House. And the Citizens House, it's kind of like Eden a little bit. There's 200 people, or it's kind of like Eden on EOS, I should say. There's 200 people right there currently who are like the badge holders, who are the people who are like making the decision. And each season they can invite one person to help make those decisions. And then there's like a kind of like a weighted average of whoever people vote for. They can say, oh, I want 10% to go to Optimism Fractal, and 5% to go to Eden Fractal, and 2% to go to DNews, and 1% to go to Eden Creators, or whatever it may be. You know, there's like 150 different projects that were there last season. So they all allocate it kind of like Pomelo, but it's just a select group of people who can do it. And then that's how that works. And then the other major difference between the RetroPGF and the other programs like the Grants Council is that RetroPGF has a lot more funding available. So at least for the Grants Council, in total, the Grants Council was awarded $3 million, or 3 million OP for the 4th season, and 1 million of that was devoted for builders grants, I believe, whereas 2 million was for growth experiments. And then they have it in different cycles. So that's a significant amount of funding. 1 million OP is worth like $1.3 or $4 million right now. Of course, all of this could change as well, depending on the token price. The token price of OP over the past 2 years has changed between about 50 cents and about $2 or so, or something, or maybe $3 at max. I'm not sure. But at the current price, that's what it's worth. Whereas RetroPGF, they're distributing 30 million, which is worth approximately $40 million right now. And that is about 40 times more than the Grants Council is offering here. And then this site kind of provides a high-level overview, but for more information about RetroPGF, I recommend checking out, like I shared before, there is more information that Rosmari curated at edencreators.com/optimism, which has a section where you can find links about this. If you go to the section about RetroPGF, you can learn more about it, and you could see the introductory article and blog post. And then they recently announced that you can sign up here. And I believe it's not such a big like application process. I think they ask a few questions, but it's not like a huge application process like we did. Basically, it's up to the 200 badge holder citizens to just decide how to allocate it. They have a couple questions, but it's not as like intense. Basically, it's more so just them reviewing how much you helped the optimism community over the past couple months and so forth. So
well, they should have something to evaluate because you've already built it, right?
Yeah.
So there's less questions necessary. They actually just check out what you built or done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the goal, basically. That's one of the reasons why for the past, I guess, month and a half or since I heard about Optimism, I've been largely focused on it, learning as much as I can about the ecosystem. A lot of that's curated in the article, edencreators.com/optimism, and then also writing stuff like this. So all the stuff that I did for, this proposal, or I should say we did too, but a lot of it I was working on, of course, and it's all the stuff that I did and that we've done so far. It's all like stuff that I can share for the badge holders and the people in Optimism community and say, hey, here's all the stuff that we did to launch Optimism Fractal. And we also have stuff like the Optimism article. And we've also been producing videos. What we're doing right now, Perry, you asking all these great questions and helping to educate people. This is also something that's helpful, creating public goods for the community. The videos that we did from the past 2 weeks about optimism, learning about it and publishing it, we're planning to publish it more widely in the Optimism community. We've only really just started reaching out, as well as all this other stuff we've talked about. All this stuff is helpful in addition to when we actually start the Optimism Fractal, and we're aiming to start it before the RetroPGF voting starts, so that people who are doing great public goods work in Optimism can join the Optimism Fractal meetings and share, hey, here's the cool tools I've been building, or here's the cool shows I've been doing to help the Optimism community, and they can share that, and we can produce videos and so forth, eventually as we have resources to do so, because it does take a lot of time to do all this work. but yeah, basically all the stuff we've been doing, curating all this, discussing it, making videos about it, building tools about it, building up the plans for Optimism Fractal, and eventually hosting Optimism Fractal events. All that stuff can be helpful stuff that we can show to all the citizens and the badge holders for the RetroPGF and say, hey, we're doing really great stuff for the Optimism community. Could you please vote to allocate some of the funding to us for all the cool stuff we've been doing to help the community.
Wow, Dan, that's a lot. I really appreciate that update. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and you're creating these. You're putting a lot of work right now, and something good is going to come. Something good is going to come. This is the right time, and you're really pushing. So I'm really happy to see that you're doing that. So I just want to encourage that. You're just doing amazing. This is that's the amount of work that you do, I have to say, astounds me every week. It does astound me. So, and I know you're putting together these proposals, so that is awesome. I'm gonna dive into these because I don't have all the details, but you've given me a really good overview here of where you're what you're trying to do, and so I appreciate it very much. It's awesome. I hope other people who are watching this video can appreciate what's going on here, and put their positive signals out to the universe for it all. And I'm sure it's time for you to have a bathroom break. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, just about. Thank you so much, Perry. If you gotta get going, then happy to wrap it up. I'm also, I would love to respond if you could stick around for another minute or something. But I just want to say thank you so much, Perry. I really appreciate it. And also huge thanks to Rosmari too. Rosmari, if you want to share any thoughts about here, Rosmari's also been doing incredible work. She's been working so much on all this stuff, and she put together all this artwork as well as all this article and so much more too, and helped immensely with the proposal. And huge thanks to Tadas and Vlad and everybody else in the community. Of course, I think I've thanked everybody repeatedly now, but these artworks, I love it too. And this is the Esther's Phoenix, by the way, which is their vision. It's super cool. I recommend checking it out and learning about the article. And also they're like kind of like glowing sunny sun. If you want to share any thoughts about this, Rosmari, then feel free. We'd love to hear from you. You've been quiet, but I hope you've been enjoying it all. But yeah, there's a bunch of really cool and awesome work, and also huge thanks to the Optimism community too, because they've been doing incredible work and making this all possible. I think it's a perfect opportunity for what we've been doing. It says here, Esther's Phoenix is the eternal spirit of human progress that Optimism seeks to summon, rewarding those to contribute to this vision of universal flourishing. So it's a really beautiful metaphor, beautiful idea. It's late, so I won't keep going on. I'll stop the screen share now. But I just want to say thank you so much, Perry, for all the kind words. I really appreciate it immensely. And I really appreciate immensely too you being here and asking all these questions. It's like a huge public good, huge help to be able to help share these and help educate everybody who's watching and help put the word out there. So and also want to add a bit of context. Oh, if you want to jump in, then feel free, of course.
Not a bot.
What's that?
Not a bot.
Not a bot. Yeah, not a bot coming soon, I suppose.
Not a bot.
Not a bot.
Not a bot. Well, I'm glad you appreciate all my questioning. When I was a kid, I would drive my father crazy. Ultimately, every conversation would end up with, and this is when I'm like 6 years old, would end up with, well, what's beyond the end of the universe, Dad? So,
and we still haven't gotten an answer.
My poor father. All right, so thank you.
Thanks to your father too.
Thanks to my father, my sweet father. Yes.
Yeah, immense gratitude for your father and raising you and helping you be so curious and inquisitive. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll figure out that thing about the universe at some point. I know that's Vlad's goal, to figure out the truth. So I would love to figure that out as well.
I hope the ENF appreciates it in 20 minutes when I get on the the meeting. They don't. Sometimes they appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you're doing. Awesome.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Perry, too. I don't want to take too much longer, but I just want to say huge thanks, Perry. Huge thanks, Rosmari. Really appreciate it so much. And then also just one more thing I wanted to add too is that I think this is an immense opportunity for everybody to like raise funding, become empowered, and so I'm stoked about just the whole trajectory, because it's way bigger than us too. This is something that's profoundly helpful for our entire community, all of humanity, everybody. So I don't know, just wanted to throw that out there, just to put it out there that this is really, really helpful, and the work that both of you are doing is incredibly helpful. You both are heroes, as well as everybody here on the call. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for Rosmari and Perry. Huge thank you, everybody. If you want, we can do hats like we have done, but we haven't done in the past couple of weeks. Perry's got not a bot. We currently are not sure if we can confirm that Perry is not a bot, although Perry is gesturing with the hat, so I can kind of imagine that Perry's not a bot, and he doesn't look like a bot. But we also don't need to do hats because I could tell up now he's a bot. Okay, but yeah, we don't need to do the hats. We could just say thanks all, immense gratitude. I don't know if Rosmari, you have any last thoughts you want to share, or Perry, you have any last thoughts before we wrap it up, or should we wrap it up now?
I'm good, thanks.
It was educational.
Okay.
First.
Wonderful.
Educational content, yeah, that's what we got.
Beautiful, amazing, Sterling. Love it. All right, well, thanks all. I don't know if we should say go Eden Fractal, go everybody in the community. Much love and appreciation. Thanks.
Woo-hoo! See you guys.
All right, see you. Bye. Peace signs. See y'all.
See ya.
All right.